one of the things I worry about is my child well prepared to tackle everything in the world? Does she know how to do her own laundry? Does she know how to pay her own bills? Does she know how to cook and clean and change the oil in a car? Does she know how to, everything life skill that people's parents may or may not teach them, or they may or may not listen to their parents. That's the other thing, right? I know I try to teach my child something and she half listens because it's dad.
In one ear, out the other.
I want to go do play with my Barbies or watch a show or whatever. We always used to have home economics, right?
I was just going to say
school,
that. All right, home economics.
And it's just not, I know there's a little bit of a push to bring back some of those things. And I think there are some schools that do some of them. Yeah. But my thought is, why not have a school? We've got all of these like computer schools and chess schools that are in our communities, right? Where people can go learn programming, and art schools where you can go learn to paint. And why isn't there a school where you can send your kids to learn everything from manners to balancing a checkbook?
Isn't that what finishing school was?
Yeah, it's kind of, and this is kind of finishing school extended. I mean, less about the manners.
Life skills school.
Life skills school. Yeah. So why not a life skills school where you can go, and you could go there at any age, right? So if my 8-year-old goes, maybe she's in a class of 8 to 10-year-olds that are learning things applicable based on their age level and ability to comprehend. They're pretty good at math at this point, right? So maybe they can start doing some financial stuff, understanding bank accounts, how that works. Maybe as you progress and you're a 14, 15-year-old, how do you pay a bill? Because you're going to be going off to college in a couple of years.
You need to know that stuff.
What happens when you've now got your own phone bill? You either can pay it online or by a check. What is a check? How do you write a check? I can remember a couple different classes. I had one in high school, which was the class when you were failing at your other classes and needed a credit. You took this to get a math credit. It was called applied math. And we learned it, but it ended up being such a useful class. We ended up, you learned how to score bowling. You learned how to write checks out and do checking. Wow. You learned all these different kind of random life skills.
God, it'll be like getting blood out of a stone trying to convince my, 14, 15, 16-year-old to enroll, much less actually even attend.
Yeah.
Oh, what? I'm going to go and learn how to clean a toilet now? Well, actually, you need to learn how to clean a toilet.
And maybe this is just a matter of, and that will be a different episode. Maybe it's less about somebody needs to create this business and more about what are we as a culture valuing?
Well, that goes way back.
And what does this educational system need? We got away from home ec and shop and metalworking and woodworking and all these things in school.
Schools forget about it.
And those things are so useful.
I should say public schools forget about it. And it kills me to say that because we are public school brats. We want our kids to be. Yeah. We don't want to have our kids go to private schools. We feel like that's somehow you're putting your kids into a different stratum, even mentally, of society. It's no good. But, I mean, I don't want to say they couldn't do it because they sure do manage to get electives in there that have some parents scratching their heads.
And we had that. And the last time I can remember taking home economics was in 7th and 8th grade. We had in middle school. Yeah. We had home economics, and we did some cooking. We did some sewing.
Yeah,
we did some. I can remember.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I like home stuff.
I think a lot of kids would though. I think it
was fun. I remember sewing this big stuffed surfboard, and then we also had wood shop, and I built my mom something for Mother's Day.
Shop,
all that's. But those are skills that I enjoyed more than school. And they actually speak more to who I am as a person, like those types of skills. I'm more of a vocational minded person.
Well, I'm just going to say, because you kind of bootstrapped your own education. This is before the days of YouTube and all that, but you read books, you learned by doing. Yeah. And actually, in some ways, I would think that would help students like that.
100%.
Where it's not, Italian, really? Why not home economics?
Right. It's more useful,
way more useful.
And this is this big global, I don't want to say global, American push anyway.
Yeah.
For, hey, people need to be doing things more useful. You're better off being a plumber than you are a software developer.
Self-starting.
Yeah, because there's more opportunity out there.
Even aside from the whole college versus bootstrapping your own education thing, it's just good knowledge to have. And why wouldn't you have... And middle school is the perfect age. Learn to cook, learn to clean. How do you paint something?
Right. How do you fix a toilet?
How do you screw together a go-kart? Whatever it happens to be. Yeah.
Or all of a sudden my lamp's not turning on. Well, let's walk through the troubleshooting process.
Disposable
of just
culture.
What's going on here? Well, okay, is the light bulb bad? No, light bulb works in something else. Is the switch bad? And you trace it back, and just so people have some common sense home maintenance, life maintenance.
Exactly right. Things. And also it goes to that point about what is that culture now of fixing things and not throwing them away, repair?
Right to repair.
Right to repair. Yeah. And that's right to repair. That's actually more of a legal thing.
Yes, correct.
But there's also a kind of a movement where any broken toaster or if you can fix it. And basically it's just soldering something or fixing a wire or a little, getting a new knob simple. Or whatever. Yeah.
It comes back to parenting, and it comes back to how do we want our children to become humans, right? To become useful people in society.
More able, An online marketplace connecting busy parents with local vetted babysitters/child sitters available at the last minute. A child sitter last minute, that's the hardest thing in the world as a parent.
Yep.
It's fine if you've got your regular go-to. We usually had 2 of them, one backup.
You know what's really funny? So for the most part, we don't know what each other is bringing to the table, right? In this.
Which is what keeps it fun.
Yeah, it keeps it fun.
Yeah.
And we do it on purpose so that we surprise each other.
Yeah.
You get more honest takes on things.
Yeah.
My next thing is called On-Demand Nanny. Basically Uber for nannies. It's a little different, but I'll let you kind of finish, but it's just funny how obviously a real pain point in the world if we're both having this thought.
Oh, I think every parent does. I think the point that this person is making is that if you know anything about parenting culture, they don't always want to share that information because they might
need it on the same Friday
night or the same weekend or whatever. They don't want to give up. And I remember thinking the same kind of thing, like, do we want to be giving out? This is, when you find a child sitter, a unicorn child sitter, you don't necessarily want to be giving up that information.
Right.
And I feel like if there was a repository of available sitters where you're not just going on Craigslist.
Yeah, the place that I see them the most is on the local town Facebook groups.
Facebook, I was just going to say.
So for my town, the neighboring town, there's a lot of, you get a lot, this time of the year, especially because school's out for colleges, you get a lot of like college freshmen, sophomores that are saying like, hey, my name's Susie and I'm a college freshman and I'm certified in CPR and I'm looking for some, childminder jobs. And
parents want to know that they can trust the child sitter that's being recommended. I remember a few times where our primary child sitter was booked up and our backup was booked up.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And it feels like there should be a centralized place where those young kids can have, or older kids can have their recommendation letters. They can have their CPR certifications. Maybe even their going rate. And I know there are websites that do this, but that's too formal.
Just like when you're hiring contractors or something.
I know. And again, as soon as you go via these websites, everything becomes too formal and the kid makes less because now the website's taking a cut.
Right.
Anyway, that one's short and sweet, but I feel parents' pain there because I feel like there isn't quite enough of a system set up.
And so it takes us into what I'm talking about, which is this on-demand nanny service.
Not necessarily babysitting, though. Nanny could be anything.
So now it's similar to a babysitter, but somebody that's more highly skilled, a more varied skill set, right?
Right.
So we're talking about somebody that doesn't mind working a couple days here or there. It's not a constant commitment.
It's not a schedule necessarily.
Contract.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in a lot of things where I think there's a big need for different services in the world where you can just say, hey, I need you for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And so maybe I need for my kid, and maybe it's somebody that can drive, and so they have like a good ranking with their driving. So it's kind of, it's the Mary Poppins thing. It's somebody that has, it's not just a babysitter. It's somebody that is basically a parent, another parent almost, somebody that I could feel would do 90% of what I would do in that situation. Right. And maybe it's even teaching the kids some life skills. So maybe it's not just like, yes, it is an as needed thing, but maybe it's not just like filling in for me. Maybe it's some ability I don't have.
I think you've hit on something there.
A French teacher. I don't know how to speak French. Maybe I need my kid we're going to France in a few weeks.
Right.
And I just want them to pick up some French.
But you actually brought up an interesting point there. Sometimes, and maybe, I'm not sure if your kid is at this age yet, but it seems like if mom or dad tries to show them how to do something, they don't want to know.
Of course. Well, it's the same.
But if someone comes in,
yeah,
you might have them making their first homemade pizza.
Yeah.
Because
they think it's cool with that person.
Cool with that person or whatever. Yeah. This is going to resonate with, I think, every parent out there. Children's phones with parental controls. I mean, 1 million parents have got this problem. 1 billion parents have got this problem right now.
And most of, iOS and Android, there are parental controls.
Well, so here's where, right? Exactly. So right now, the list is, it's either time limits, app limits, or usage schedules. Those are really the only controls that parents have.
Yeah.
Our
not
kid,
a lot of filtering or
content filtering. You can do that, but it introduces it. First of all, it depends on what age the kid is.
Yeah.
We had a pact with our neighbor friends who were all parents of kids about the same age, and we all said, and they're all school buddies. And back in the middle school, we all said, okay, not until 8th grade. Only at 8th grade will we get our kids cell phones.
Yeah.
Well, one household caved. And when the one household caved, all the households caved. Because as soon as one kid got a phone, all the other kids knew it was open season. That's it. They got a phone. Why can't I have a phone? And the peer pressure is unbelievable.
Our daughter's only 8. So, we're like, if she needs to communicate with me, I had seen somebody talking about kids and phones and what they're actually doing to the kids' brains. And basically saying, listen, when the kid's 13 or 14, we think that's an okay time to start introducing some things, but get them a flip phone. Basically, they should be able to text you, call you if they need a ride. They don't need to be on social media.
That's absolutely right. And there are many, many solutions out there right now. In fact, our neighbors use the little kid phone.
Apple Watches and stuff.
Yeah, not even Apple Watch, like a little cheap version.
There's a couple different brands.
It can text and it can do voice chat.
Right. And so
which is pretty cool.
There's kids my daughter's age that have that as well.
Right. But once you get to about 13, 14, they know. I mean, Pandora's box is open. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And as much as I respect you and any parent, like our friend Dan, who's going to be soon facing exactly the same problem, we were just as resolute. We were like, nope. 8th grade or bust. That is it.
I guess I just don't, as a technical person, I don't see the use case for a kid needing anything beyond.
It's got nothing to do with need. It's a social thing. And this is where, and we're getting off topic, but it's actually not that off topic.
Well, it's parenting. I mean,
it's parenting. And even though my original, idea behind this was to talk about what are other ways of controlling. Kids on their phones, it really comes down to culture and society. Parenting culture, but society also, that we went through some pretty tough times with our kid. Partly caused by, but also partly exacerbated by the phone. But also partly aided, if you can even believe that, by the phone. What parents from our generation have to recognize is that communication online right now is really what social communication is. We don't like to, you and I don't like to think of our kids communicating so much on desktop computers and the internet and phones and apps and all these things. We don't like it. It's just like, it's like icky in a way. Like, go out with them. Here's $20. Go to the mall. Go to the corner store. Go get a smoothie.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, I'll just chat with them right here. Because it's a social device. It's not just games. It's not just time wasting. It's a lot of that, but it's not just that. They literally are communicating with their friends, just like we used to. What we did in the 80s and 90s was just laying around talking on the phone for hours, is what they're doing now, only by text and by sharing videos and memes and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Understand that this is how this generation communicates. This is how this generation socializes. But obviously addiction is a real thing.
Yeah.
There's a website, in fact, a whole company, I forget what the name is. They have a very active YouTube channel, and I went on there. One of their first lessons was the best you can do is be a guiding voice.
Yeah. School for Parents, an education program, either in person or online, where I can constantly learn better skills to be a parent, whether that's how to talk to my kid, whether that's how to interact with other parents, how to teach my kids about certain things. Or, my daughter's 8, haven't had the sex talk, obviously. Maybe there's some help there.
Oh, get ready. It's so much fun.
But every little aspect of parenting.
Yeah.
Who couldn't use a little hand-holding? I mean, even from day one, you come home from the hospital, as we all know, like half of us don't know what to do with half the diaper stuff.
Well, that's why you have grandma or grandpa around.
If you're lucky. Anyway, I just think an ongoing education system, 1 4-hour class on a weekend.
It's funny you should say that.
And just as you age and as your child ages, you're picking up new skills that will help you tackle that age group.
Isn't that what they say about teachers? As long as you're 2 weeks ahead of your students, you're okay.
Is that true?
Yeah. But as it happens in Providence, the Office of Families, I forget what they call it, but it's part of the education department here. They have Parent University. And about every 2 weeks, they have a new Parent University.
This is for new parents, though?
No, just for school-age parents. Whether and for each grade, for each school level. So grade school, middle school, high school.
That's similar to what I'm saying, I guess.
No, it definitely is. But they don't. I mean, when you first mentioned that, I thought, oh, you mean almost like finishing school for parents, like teaching even the parents how to cook better meals. And that is actually a big part now. A big push is to educate parents better about nutrition, things like that. But these Parent University courses typically held via Zoom because it's much easier if you're a busy parent, And I thought that was very smart, but they would teach them about, how to have, kids are on computers and the internet, just like what we're talking about.
Well, because some parents aren't tech savvy
exactly.
like we are.
They would know. Parents may not always understand what their kids are getting up to online. They may not always know, and I think that's actually a very important part of that. Nutrition, a huge one. Dealing with anger, like how do you deal with angry kids?
Right.
How do you deal with kids not doing chores? How do you get
doing their schoolwork?
Doing their schoolwork. They covered a pretty wide array of things, but Parent University, I thought was a great idea. It was pretty well attended too.
So my thought is that as with all of these, right? One of our goals is, hey, you, viewer, could go start this as a business. Yeah. And I think you could. And I think you could bring in experts in the different fields occasionally, but basically where you could start a school for parents. And you could enroll a few different groups of parents that have kids of different ages, right? So you could have, parents of kids age 0 to 3, parents of kids aged 4 to 6 and 8 to 12 and, whatever it is. Teach them just some things that will help them kind of navigate being a parent.
Yeah. Expedia for daycares. A service to call around to local daycares, find out where you are on the waiting list, the pricing, etc. It's just a giant pain. And one of the most annoying things was you could sign up for a daycare on their waiting list. They would charge you $50.
Yeah.
Totally non-refundable. And you wouldn't even know how far down the waiting list you were. Like, did you even have a shot in hell of getting into the daycare?
It could be 1,000 people.
Or did they just take your money anyway? I mean, can you give me some idea?
Right. Is there a chance in hell?
I know. Otherwise, why am I giving you money? I mean, that just seemed like on the face of it, that just seemed wrong. And one of the other things that another parent brought up to me, some parents would want a part-time. They wouldn't want to have a full-time daycare gig. You would then have to coordinate with other parents who also wanted a part-time and see if your schedules would align where maybe we take the morning and you take the afternoon. Yeah. And daycares were okay with that. But it's like, why
So you're saying almost schedule fitting and stuff.
Schedule fitting, and that's also a pain.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out, like, why don't more daycares either offer that, or why isn't there a service where you can find out which ones do offer or don't offer?
Or have holes in the schedule.
Or even have parents on this online roster where you can just like meet up and say, hey, I noticed that you were taking one of the afternoon slot. We would like the morning slot. Mm-hmm. How would you like, on like Tuesday, Thursdays or whatever. And I feel like, Expedia, whatever you want to call it, for daycares is a great idea.
Like an aggregating service
shows
reviews.
Not to mention it, reviews. And I don't know.
Scheduling.
I think daycares worth their salt would want to be on a site like that because it would be visibility for them. You would imagine that if they wanted to stand by their rating, they would want to be up there and rated. Right. and have people interacting on their behalf.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also think part of that should be that wait list, that the wait list should be up there. It should show how many are up there. Generally, how many on the wait list historically make it in.
Right.
And then you can decide, do I want to give my $50? I don't know how many daycare is going to be into that.
Well, yeah, but you just hope over time that shifts to the point where you have to be, or, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of services and systems out there, TripAdvisor and Airbnb and all of these things that have come to exist where previously they didn't, and previously those, like a hotel would have just said, pound sand, we're going to do what we want. But then, exactly, as soon as people begin to expect, then they have to fall in line.
They have to change.
You know?
Exactly right. Yeah.